name is Shelley Pernot. I graduated from iPEC. It was May 6th, actually, of 2015, and I remember it because it was my birthday. and started my coaching practice shortly after that. So a little bit about me and my story. I got into coaching through the work that I was doing in my day job, actually. I, at the time, was Global Capability Manager for Leadership Development at BP, and had the opportunity to work with a lot of folks doing training as well as coaching. And I wanted to fine-tune the art of coaching, so to speak. I wanted to get better at that particular skill. And I also had a sneaking suspicion in my mind at that particular point in time that I was probably going to end up starting my own company at a certain point. I'd done it before. My background is pretty diverse. I've worked internationally all over the world. I had my own company in London for a number of years, and I could feel that bug was starting to bite again. But instead of doing finance, which is what I originally studied and spent most of my career working in, finance and risk management, I wanted to do something that was in leadership development and coaching, so something that was more aligned to my heart space, so to speak. And that's the story of how I ended up doing what I'm doing. You can thank that and the low oil prices. So it's time for me to move on from BP. Since training was being very substantially cut at the time, right around the beginning of January 2015. And then a window opened and a door opened, and I knew it was the time. I was just about to finish and graduate from iPEC, and that opportunity presented itself. So I started True North Development in August of 2015, and I have been rolling with that ever since. So it's been a pretty interesting year. So I've got True North Development, which is the leadership development side of my business. And I focus on that side of the business, creating programs that are all geared around leadership development, that highlight my skills as a trainer, but all through the lens of mindfulness. So I'm also a certified yoga teacher, and I've been training for many years, for BP and other clients. And so this takes my love of leadership development and my love for doing work that's all around mindfulness and blends it together. And I teach, one of my clients is the University of Texas here in Austin, and I teach a course on mindfulness for them, specifically geared at busy professionals. So how do you even begin to contemplate bringing mindfulness into your daily life when you've got like screaming kids and you're completely overwhelmed and you're not sure what your priorities are and you've got bills to pay and the craziness of life. That's what that particular program's geared at. But a lot of my courses on the True North Development side are all geared at leadership development through the lens of mindfulness. Mindfulness being that fundamental foundational skill that I think all leaders really need. That sense of presence, that sense of purpose, that ability to listen with curiosity. Only a truly mindful person can really listen and hear what's being said. It's the mindful leader who is less judgmental, who spends more time asking questions than making judgments, uses the sense of discernment rather than judgment. So the programming is all geared around the mindful leader and what does mindfulness look like if we're actually living it in our everyday life. So that's what I do on the True North Development side of my business. I also do some executive coaching because that tends to flow from the leadership development programming, and I've got some clients that I coach in an executive capacity. And then I also have a life coaching business, which I recently just split from this other part of my business, and I'm rebranding that True North Life Coaching. So I work with clients who are stuck, basically. That's how I differentiate myself. I really deal mainly with life purpose coaching. When I think back to the niches at iPEC that you can specialize in, whether that's relationship or transitional coaching, I would really say mine is life purpose on that particular side. And I help folks get unstuck and work with them over a series of sessions and help them get closer to, whatever that heart space is for them. It was actually the yoga that kind of set me off on this whole journey, because when I think about that abrupt change that I made in my career, I went from risk management to leadership development. That all came about because of yoga. And dipping my toe into the mindfulness space. And the more I kept practicing yoga, the more I tried meditation, the more I really tried to start living more of a mindful life, I came to the realization that I hated my career. or it just wasn't for me. It wasn't the trajectory I wanted to be on. I got more aware of who I was and how I wanted to show up. And that's what actually prompted me to make some of those career changes, to go and do iPEC, to get more aligned in terms of who I was in my spirit with how I was showing up in the world. My secret ingredient, there were a number of months ago where I heard Gloria Steinem actually talking. And she was being interviewed, and so I'm stealing a little bit of the advice that she gave, because I think it's so relevant. When she was asked what she would do again differently, the response that she gave was, I would do more of what I authentically could do, as opposed to what everyone else can do. And I think that's really what it comes down to for me. There's a number of different folks out there who are doing coaching, who are doing leadership development training as well. And for a long time, I thought I needed to be just like them, or I needed to be offering, exactly what they were offering and making sure I was doing it, quote unquote, the right way. But what I realized the longer I've been in my practice is that I've got a unique perspective on this that only I can bring. And the more I bring that perspective, the better off I'm going to be. The more people are going to seek me out, because I'm coming from that place of authenticity. So as opposed to just copying. So I think it's what prompted me to write my book, and to take a unique edge on mindfulness. That I've been working on this book for the last 6 or 8 months. And I'm taking a fairly irreverent tone, and I'm telling the story of mindfulness in a voice that hasn't been told before. So that's something that's unique to me. Why tell it the same way? And it was a number of years ago that I realized that the only person that suffers if you're not living authentically to yourself is you. It's for years and years. I mean, we all have limited beliefs we take on. We all have people that influence us about what we think we're supposed to do or how we're supposed to show up in certain situations. And I think for a long time, I was very influenced by my family and by other outside influences that, this is how I'm supposed to be. And I woke up one day and I realized that they're not suffering. They're living their own lives. They're happy just doing whatever it is they're doing, and then I'm sitting over here, trying to live a pantomime of my life, and it's just not working, and I'm the one who's on the receiving end of that. So I think at some point we all, to a certain extent, wake up one day and realize that, and I think iPEC's a big part of helping with that. My success formula, it may sound a little bit out there, but but when I think back to where I was in the corporate sector years and years ago, I never thought that I could actually have a career where I could have a lot of work-life balance, where I could actually have fun. And that is my secret formula. I take care of myself. I absolutely take care of myself. I do a lot of work still on myself. I do a lot of exercise, and I have fun with my work. I don't take things on that don't excite me or don't engage me. Granted, there's still a number of things that one has to do as a business owner. There's always administration and things like that. But ultimately, I really fundamentally believe that I can I can have fun at work, and I can have enjoyment, and I can have work-life balance, and I can still turn a profit, and I can still be successful. And that's paramount. I think you really have to believe that, because it's interesting. I've had conversations with other folks, and well, I take this kind of work because that's where the money is, and I totally get that. I totally get that. But I remember back to when I was writing my life intention statement at iPEC, and it was one of the teleclasses, and we were writing our life intention statement, and I, Shelley, see, feel, know, and fun and passion was a big part of mine. I have the right to have a fun career and to have passion for it, and that's fundamental. For me, at the moment, a lot of it has been the book. This is something that I have done that I never thought I was going to do. I never thought I would actually write a book. Well, I hoped I would, but I never thought I would actually write one in the first year of my coaching practice. So I'm pretty chuffed about that. So there's so much to do with the book at the moment. But what really, on a deeper level, motivates me and gets me up in the morning is that I'm trying to bring mindfulness into the mainstream. And I think a lot of the work that we do as coaches is mindfulness work. We're helping people become more aware of the limiting thoughts that they have, limiting beliefs, the assumptions, the inferences, the gremlins, all the gales, all the things that hold us back. So what we're doing as coaches is we're raising another person's consciousness. We're raising their awareness. So that's one of the reasons I love coaching so much. And I'm also bringing mindfulness into the mainstream with the book, with my teaching, with trying to make it accessible for people who feel like it's often been over-esoterized. And I made that word up. But to a certain extent, some of this stuff, it becomes a buzzword. It gets a little over-esoterized. And I'm trying to make it practical and relatable for people. So that's what energizes me, mindfulness into the mainstream. There's no reason why every single person can't have a really good understanding of what this looks like and is living it out in their daily life. And to the extent that they are, gosh, what a better place to work. You're going to be working with people who are more engaged, who are more curious, who are less judgmental, who are fueled by their passion. This is the kind of world that more mindfulness is going to create. And I think it's fundamental to tackling some of the challenges that we have at this particular point in time, whether you look in the political space, because I'm not going to go there. Don't have enough time for that. But the challenges everywhere. Mindfulness is really the answer. My mantra is start where you are. It's, that's kind of my philosophy. I take it from a woman by the name of Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist monk, actually. But she grew up in New Jersey. She's like me. Her name is Deidre originally, and became a monk in her later life. But what I find really interesting about that phrase is I think quite often we're waiting for the fear to go away, or we're waiting to be more qualified, or we're waiting to have more of the answers, or we're waiting for something. But the time just isn't quite right. We probably all told ourselves this at one point or another. And I tell it to my yoga students all the time who come up to me and say, I can't do this posture. I don't look like Susie over there. I can't touch my head to my feet. And what I tell them is start where you are, because it's all about taking action. And the fear doesn't go away. The fear is always going to be there to a certain extent, but sometimes you just have to grab onto the fear and say, we're going. Whatever that looks like for you. But I mean, I think sometimes that's just what it takes. So that's my mantra for me. I think what I had to break through, probably much more than outside barriers, because we can focus on things like time or money, or and those things are always there, and those things can be challenges. But I think the biggest thing I've had to break through is myself, or the limiting ways that I was holding myself back. And I think a big part of that for a long time was, this is what success looks like. It looks a certain way, and I really think that was probably the biggest one for me, was realizing that I have the capability of defining success however I want, and probably the fear too that I was going to disappoint someone or upset someone. But the irony of that is the more I kept marching kind of to my own tune, so to speak, rather than someone else's, the more respect I actually got from the folks that I thought wouldn't be interested, if that makes sense. So yeah, ironic but true. I think my most valuable lesson is, it's so easy to get bogged down, I think, sometimes in the minutia of, particularly when you're starting your own business. I could go this direction or that direction, or maybe I need to be doing more social media, or, maybe I need to advertise on Google or whatever it is. And it's so easy to be pulled in a million different directions. I think, find one thing and really, really, really focus on it, like I've done with this book. And then made that the basis for my whole business model. Find one thing that really drives you and excites you and focus on that. And just believe then that it's going to happen somehow. If you keep putting your energy there, eventually it will be done. But you don't always have to know exactly how it's going to happen, if that makes sense. Because there are times I got a little bit down and I was thinking, things aren't happening fast enough, or I should be here by now. But when I kept my focus on, no, I'm writing this book, I'm moving forward, I'm launching this business, and just kept putting one foot in front of the other, things will just happen. Things will just show up. The right opportunities just start to show up. You don't have to know exactly how it's going to happen, but it will.